Hi folks, we got her attention there. She was busy looking at the thing to try to remember again whatever she's supposed to tell you. So it is what day? It's daylight saving time. And in America, it's a stupid idea. It continues to be a stupid idea. And it should have gone away a long time ago. The panning you hear is not me. It's not Miss Katie. It's Weezer, i.e. Bandit, our old Aussie. So what do we have today, Toots?
We've got a magazine, the Crimean Campaign, 1941-1942, from our friend Ty Bomba.
Right, and it's a decisions game because we redid our subscription for it. So, have I been reading on it lately? Well, yeah. Because, well, that's what I do, isn't it? Have you ever been near to Crimea?
Yes, when we were in Ukraine on our cruise.
But we couldn't go there, could we?
No.
Why is that?
War?
And what kind of men are they?
Little green men?
Little green men. Because, we won't get into the political aspects except, we kind of dropped the ball and left the Russians walk in. Not a smart thing, so.
Yep.
But this campaign is an interesting one. We had the GMT game on it, and it's somewhere. God knows where it is at the moment. So it's much of a surprise to me that I can't find it at the moment. But, new game. We're going to have fun with it. We got things set up a little differently this time, folks. So we'll let you know how this goes out. It's a brand new experiment because it's a brand new day. And, of course, you can probably tell outside. It's gray and murky, and we have a lot of mosquitoes already because it's rained a lot in the lower 40 as we call it. There's a lot of water in it. So, all right, folks, what do we do next, Miss Katie?
Bye-bye.
Bye-byes. Okay, folks, I think we're on. Are we on, Miss? Because we're doing it a different way today. So Miss Katie doesn't have to hold the thing and thinks she's going to go into some kind of Miss Katie shock because her elbows are going to go to sleep and it's going to progress the rest of her body and she's going to die of boredom or something.
Robert.
All right. She told you, Decision Games, our subscription, the Crimean Campaign. And of course, as always, game counters. One sheet of game counters, folks. Okay. Now, Miss Katie's going to do something different. She's going to rotate slowly to the map because I'm pointing to the map here. And do we have all the map in the screen, Miss?
We do now.
About that, folks. You only get to hear my annoying voice. Now, let's talk about game setup. Game setup for the Germans is in the 0-1 hex row. Bomba wisely, in my opinion, went ahead and cut off the initial fight here at the 5 mile mouth of the isthmus because it'd be boring as crap. All it would be is what are we doing? Rolling dice. That's all it would be. It'd just be a die roll for that. So, it made no sense to do that. The Soviet setup is everywhere else except it cuts across at about here. So from out there, from Kerch to here and to about there, the Soviets can set up, excluding, of course, the German 0-1 hex row setup. So it's 5 miles per hex. There are 2 scenarios within the game in a sense. There is the short game, which would apply to me because, I am short. And there's the long game. The short game is 4 turns. And it's determined by a die roll. 1 to 3 means the long game. 4 to 6 means the short game. Short game, of course, is 4 turns. Long game is 15 turns. Different victory conditions. For the long, it is you have to take Sevastopol and Kerch. For the short, guess what? You have to take Kerch and Sevastopol as well. I think that's going to be hard in the short term, but you have more forces. All right. Now, all game units here, and we come back to this again, the game units, the Germans all have steps. The German units all have steps. The Soviets are all one-steppers. Now you might be able to see these here that don't look like regular units. They are combat support units, and their combat factor is added in. Okay. And there's also close air support. The Axis have, like we said, anywhere from 1 to 5 steps. So a unit could be have as many as 3 counters. But pretty simple map. Nice looking, and of course down here we've got the naval fortress of Sevastopol. All right, now I'm going to kind of mosey back over this direction a little bit and talk to you about the game. Eliminated Soviet units never return. Axis ones may return. Okay, we'll go with that. What I like is that this period of war still, there are mandated Soviet offenses. So if you roll 1 to 3 on game turns 5 through 10, there's no mandated offensive. If you roll 4 for 6, well, you're stuck. Then you have to roll a second die. The second die tells you how many division or division equivalents must participate in the Soviet offensive. This could get to be painful. If you figure the average roll is going to be 4, you're probably going to figure you're going to have 3 offensives. You're going to lose at least 9 units during these mandated offensives. That's a lot of units to lose. Now, Ty also has a special rule in here about, as I was telling Miss Katie the other night, the 22nd Panzer Division, the Eau de Cologne Division, because they had been a French unit, well, actually been a French garrison unit, hadn't seen any combat, and they weren't really combat soldiers. So they came here and did so poorly in their first combat action, and they should never have taken off the train and put into combat. Pulled them right out of combat and did what they should have done anyway. Trained them for the Eastern Front. So here, to simulate that, what happens is you roll 2 die for their first attack. So it's possible you could only get a 2 attack factor. For defense, it's 1 die. I think that's a good way to handle that. And for the map here for a moment, if you take it back over here, you see both here and there we have game turn tracks. Here we have combat results table. They are, I'm scanning here, they look exactly the same, are they? Yep, they're exactly the same. And of course, the terrain effects chart. So, the Soviet turn is the first turn in every game, except on the first game turn. Okay. Stacking, the Axis have, how many is that, Miss Katie?
3.
Fee, that's 3. They only stack 3. The Soviets stack 6. What's also interesting is there's infinite movement in this game. For moving units, because there are a number of static units. So in theory, a Panzer unit could move the whole way across the board, or any other unit. Well, it's probably not going to, because there's going to be Soviet units in the way. What I liked about this and that is also any units that are out of supply are eliminated. Now that makes sense as well, because the Germans were on a tight timeline, tight supply. The Soviets were as well. We talked about support units after combat. Another interesting thing that's included here. There are Soviet amphibious, because we know from, Black Sea Red Death game from the late 70s. The Soviets then invaded down here, an amphibious invasion down towards Kerch. Okay, so we simulate that. We also simulate the German assault boats coming into Sevastopol. Another good little rule. Look at them, not too much chrome there, easy to use, makes sense. So, and of course we have close air support. Each side has close air support because the Soviet Air Force was becoming resurgent. Now what do we always talk about next? My favorite thing, books. All right, Book we've been talking a lot about lately. We talked about it somewhat in the Race to Moscow game. And that is Satino's Death of the Wehrmacht. Nice little write-up on the Crimean Campaign in here from the time of von Manstein and all going into the Crimea to the time they captured Sevastopol and the whole area out to Kerch. So, good little write-up. Fun book. Not terribly historically accurate all the time. Paul Carell's Hitler Moves East, 1941-1943, because he was working in the Minister of Propaganda at that point, known as Dr. Schmidt. So he's writing under a pseudonym. It's a fun read. It gives you broad parameters, and it's almost like the good old boys from Brandenburg. They gave it their best and gave it their all, and so fun read. And then there is von Manstein. Well, of course, he talks a lot about the Crimean here. Tends to forget to talk about the Eisengruppen and his role or ignoring of the policing of the rear areas of partisans and other undesirables. But it's a good write-up as well in here on his campaign to take the Crimea. So, there you have it, folks. We'll get this on the table directly, and I think we're done today. And what do we always say? Thank you as always. Have a blessed one, folks. Bye.